From sunny Southern California, we bring you Meet Bridget, a podcast for building confident communication and female badassery. We spotlight women who have bridged the gaps in their lives by building strong relationships and speaking their teenage dreams into reality.
Bring it on, baby!
All right, ladies, let's play ball.
Welcome back to Meet Bridget Season 5. I'm Keshiia Rosenberg, and I co-host this show alongside my best friend and Meet Bridget CEO and founder, Asha Gabriel. Our mission is to create an expansive library of career and life paths, giving young women a chance to see themselves in the real, unfiltered teenage experiences of a diverse range of successful women. We really believe that confidence is built on self-trust and strengthened through authentic connections, and that by revisiting our formative years, we can really foster a space where women of all backgrounds and life stages can find common ground, inspiration, and community. It's really been a mission rooted in passion, purpose, and just a love for connecting with other people and sharing all of our learnings. So I'm really excited today to bring Tara Wan onto the show. Tara is a licensed registered veterinary technician with nearly 3 decades of experience in animal care. Her journey in the vet world started back in 1995, and she officially became licensed in 2014. But her love for animals goes far beyond her career. In 2014, Tara founded Pitas Funny Farm, a rescue sanctuary where she and her husband care for a whole crew of incredible animals, each with their own special story. Fun fact, she's also in the process of turning these heartfelt rescue stories into a children's book series meant to inspire and educate young readers. Her personal journey is just as inspiring. She met her husband in the most unexpected of ways. We'll dabble in that story. It does involve dogs, a fight, and I think a vet bill. She's navigating the challenges of breast implant illness, which we're going to get into. And she's also setting her sights on officially turning Pitas Funny Farm into a 501c3 nonprofit for farm animal education in 2025. Her story is one of passion, resilience, and a deep love for animals. And I really can't wait for you to hear her insights on animal rescue, healing, and just the funny farm in general, what it means to care for creatures of all shapes and sizes, big and small. So let's dive in. Welcome to the show, Tara.
Thank you for having me on. I really appreciate it.
I'm so excited. My husband and son and I visited the Funny Farm with my 2 aunts just a couple months ago, and it was one of the most incredible experiences because it's not, I want to paint a picture for our listeners. It's not like a red barn farmhouse, but it's literally like you're walking into just this sanctuary with trees and willows, and all of a sudden from out of nowhere there's 4 horses that come walking in and a donkey and chickens everywhere, and you're just all of a sudden transported into this really cool universe of animals, and they all have their own special story. So I'd love for you to take us back to the beginning and tell us a little bit about where you're from and a little bit about yourself as a kid. Where did all of this passion come from?
Okay, I was adopted from Seoul, Korea when I was about 1 year old. I was brought over to the United States by my parents, Kemp and Esther. I have 2 sisters. One is also adopted. She's half American, half Korean. And then my little sister, we call her Homemade. So I was basically raised in San Diego County. We came over from Maryland when I was about 4 years old, and I've lived basically in the San Diego area most of my life, and I'm now 50.
That's incredible. I had no idea you were adopted, actually.
Yes.
What was that like growing up with an adopted sibling and a homemade sibling? What was the dynamic like at home?
The dynamic was that of 3 children. You know, the oldest one kind of didn't like the new one, and then the when the baby's born next and the old one loves that one. So I basically have the middle child syndrome completely.
Oh my gosh.
But other than that, I mean, it's just like growing up with sisters, your normal sisters and your normal mother and father. There's no difference in my mind or my heart, that this isn't my family.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm the oldest of 4 kids, and my mom remarried after she had me with my biological dad. And so my dad now is actually my adoptive dad. But
Okay.
similarly, all of my younger, and I've asked them throughout, especially when you're younger, at least for me, I would ask them, like, do you feel differently about me knowing like we have different dads? And similar to what you said, they're your siblings. You love them. It's your family. You don't know anything different. Were your parents both did they work with animals? What did they do?
Actually, no. My father was an ophthalmologist. He's retired now, and my mom basically ran the entire practice, did the books, did everything for the practice itself. So we've always had a dog in the family. When we moved to Poway, my big sister got a horse, and we ended up, adding on a couple of dogs. I finally wore them down and got our first cat, and a little outdoor cat. And from there, I kind of started loving animals from a young age, and I keep just loving them even more.
Yeah, no, it definitely sounds like it. So how did you go from so how did you guys make the jump from dog to horse and then to cat?
Well, my parents always loved dogs, so we always had a dachshund. And then when we moved to Poway, we got a German Shepherd. My older sister at that time was into horses, so she started riding horses. And then I just kind of wanted to follow in her footsteps.
Yeah.
So then I got a horse myself. And then I just always wanted a cat. So I just kept pressuring my parents for a cat, and we finally got one, a little indoor-outdoor cat named Marmalade.
Oh, so
Cutest
cute.
little thing. So it just started naturally.
Yeah. I mean, I've never met an animal I didn't like. I know there are people out there that are like, oh, I'm not like a dog or a cat person, or I'm just a dog person. And I've never really, I'm pretty empathetic, but it's really hard for me to understand that.
I don't understand it at all.
I was going to say, you probably feel the same way. So you guys were all very, very much into animals. Did you know from a really young age that that's what you wanted to do, that you wanted to become a vet tech, that you wanted to do something that pertained to taking care of animals?
No, I actually wanted to become a cop, which was interesting.
Yeah.
All my aptitude tests would always say, that you would work great as a florist or in as a sheriff or something like that, animal control.
Yeah.
And then from there, my love for animals actually came on probably more in the early 20s for me, is when I really started getting more involved with the animals, bringing on more, and just from there, life kind of took its little route and took me that way.
Yeah. So walk me through it a little bit. It's really interesting because cop and vet tech seem so different, but I do feel like I remember taking a couple aptitude tests. I don't know if they're still particularly popular now for kids in school, so I don't but I remember you take them and they'd give you a random list of things that you would probably be good at based on personality things, or how high you scored in math and everything. Was this just something that you was presented to at school and you did it and you were like, oh, that sounds like a good idea, maybe I'll become a cop? Or was there something specific that was drawing you to that initially?
Basically the aptitude test, and they would push you forward, into, hey, let's go meet this person, or at the work fairs, sorry, I'm lost for words here. All the little fairs that they would have where the different people would come in, show you their life story, tell you how they work, what they do. And I've always been high on protective instinct and protectiveness of others. So that's where I believe that, the cop came from. But that's also taken me into rescuing of the animals, love of the animals, taking care of them in my job. So it all kind of connected together.
Yeah, it does actually. When you talk about it like that, it makes a lot of sense, that sense of protectiveness and just wanting to be the person to fix things.
Right.
Did you have that dynamic with your siblings as well, or were you kind of like free to navigate what you wanted to do as a kid?
We were free to navigate and become who we wanted to be.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's so great. I laugh because you mentioned middle child syndrome, and Asha and I, like, I'm the oldest. She's actually a middle child, so she probably relate to that a lot.
Mm-hmm.
How would you have described yourself as a kid, like your attributes and personality?
I feel I was very independent, pushed the boundaries, definitely pushed my parents' boundaries quite a bit, and just always just taking off on my horse. My parents would see me at 7 a.m. and see me back at 7 p.m., just going out and about and just doing my own thing.
And you mentioned Poway, which is in San Diego County, correct?
Yeah, yes.
Is it a little bit more rural in terms of like the area and the landscape? Because if you guys had horses, was it like the type of area you guys could just like ride around, like there are trails and stuff, or is it a little bit more of a city situation?
It was very rural when we grew up there. It's become a big city now, but my friends and I used to just go and do trails all over the city. They used to have a hitching post at the nearest Circle K where we would just tie up the horses, go in for a big gulp, and grab some treats for us and the horses. And now it's a humongous city where I don't think a lot of the properties would even let you ride through anymore.
Yeah. I mean, cities change so quickly. We grew up I grew up for a short period of time in Santa Clarita, which was being developed at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And so I imagine I can kind of visualize in my head, because at the time when we were living there, everything was so spread out, and there were not so many, but a couple places where they were like very horse friendly and you could ride from one place to another. They would have a hitching post, like you said, but just over the years, you just see how quickly things become built up. It's like a totally different place.
Yeah.
Yeah. Very suburban now. So you mentioned that around your 20s, you started to realize that you were like making these connections of like love for animals and your career. Walk us through that a little bit. Like were you like going into college, like trying to figure out what you were doing, and then you just like a light bulb moment, or was it something specific?
It was just one of those moments where the world just kind of handed it to me. I was actually working in an ophthalmology practice at the time. And in my apartment complex, a cat fell 3 stories. And security went around asking, if this was your cat, do you know whose cat this is? And I said, no, I don't. So I went ahead and I said, well, I'll take it to the nearest emergency room. So I found the nearest emergency room, took the cat in as a patient, or as a client, actually, and they fixed up the cat. Luckily, nothing was broken, and it bounced nicely. And then about a week later, security again found another kitten inside the garage underneath a car, and they thought that the kitten was hit by a car. So they said, what do you want to do? And I said, well, I'll take it. So I took it back to the same hospital clinic, and they're like, you must really love animals. I mean, these aren't even your animals. And I was like, no, I feel really bad. And they go, do you want to start as a kennel position here?
Oh.
And I said, well, I never thought about that. And they're like, well, we have an opening for you if you want to join. So I quit my job and I started as a kennel position.
Oh, cool.
And that was when I was 21 years old. 21 years old.
Oh my gosh. And you've never looked back since?
No, I haven't. It's just been forward movement since then.
So I kind of got I I had like a little bit of a teaser when we were there visiting because you've known my aunts for many, many years now. And I can't remember which one said, but they were like, yeah, Tara's the person that, people will like bring their animals to. And it kind of like became a theme throughout our visit. It was like, okay, where did this one come from? You're like, well, somebody called me. So this has been going on for decades, it sounds like.
That's where my love for rescue also came in, was I was able to, luckily we were able to afford it, to take care of these two cats that I had never met before, or, I wasn't responsible for. And, we could able to get them back on their feet and get them back out. And I actually kept the little one from under the car. We named him Little Man just because he looked like this little grumpy old man. And from there, I just started working at the animal clinic, Waimalu, and it just took off from there. I was able to move forward to from a kennel assistant to an assistant to a technician, and then from there, it just has just flourished for me.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it sounds like you knew right away, like once you had that position, I mean, it sounds like you fell in love with it right away.
Yes, I didn't know what went on behind the scenes, and it was wonderful to see. And that's where I realized, that people are there to help. People love their animals, they want to get more, they get babies, they have to deal with the sadness of losing, their pets. So it's a roller coaster ride, but I've loved almost all of it.
Yeah, yeah. Oh my gosh. I mean, so you start this job as a kennel tech and you start moving your way up. Did you have to become certified, or did you like just naturally, like you just followed point A, point B, like did whatever you needed to do?
I just went from point A to point B. A lot of people get licensed as like a registered veterinary technician. I decided not to go that route, but I still ended up being the supervisor at a humongous ER clinic. I also was a surgical supervisor at another very large practice. And from there, the management was like, well, you're going to have to become licensed just so that we can have you, come on, keep your position here. And it's nice to have your license so that we have something to back you up.
Yeah, yeah.
And so I went through school, through the VACE program, Veterinary Allied, I don't remember the name of it. It's VACE. And then I was able to get my license through there.
Very, very cool. Surgical ER for animals. What was that like?
Intense.
Yeah.
It also made you feel very, very good and self-confident because you're able to help these pets and these clients during the most difficult time. Their pets are really sick, or they accidentally get hit by a car, or they jump over a fence and get caught on the fence, or dealing with diabetes, liver disease, all of that. And you see them on their worst days when they come in, but you're able to send them home with some sort of hope, or at least a defining moment of this is what we need to do to move forward for your pet's life. Unfortunately, a lot of euthanasia was involved during those times too, because you are seeing them at the worst time of their life.
Yeah, yeah, I can imagine. I mean, we just had to put I thought he was going to live forever, our cat Dexter. He was probably like, and actually, you can correct me if I'm wrong, because this is an assumption as like a pet owner, and we've rescued I think we've rescued all of our animals actually from the pound. But Dexter was like a Seal Point Siamese mutt cat. It was so pretty, bluest eyes ever, kind of cross-eyed. And when we got him, they were like, "Oh, he's a kitten." And we're looking at him, we're like, "Oh, it doesn't look like a kitten. He looks like he's got some years on him." Is that like a real thing where they, when you go, it's like the pound, like the age estimation is just kind of like meant to help get the animal out the door with an owner kind of thing?
I feel like yes.
Yeah.
So all dogs are usually between the age of 2 and 5. Even
Yeah.
if it looks like a grumbly old man who can barely walk, it's going to be the age of 5 to 7.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly.
they do want to get the animals adopted and, to the best possible homes. So they do, I feel, fib quite a bit on the
Yeah.
ages. A 1-year-old cat could be a 7-month-old cat.
Yeah.
2-year-olds could be, still a 7-month-old cat according to them.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. I was like, for sure, this cat's must be older than 2 years old. But he lived, I mean, he was with us for if he was actually 2, he would have been 18 when he passed away. So I
mhm.
think he was much older. But yeah, it's so hard. It's so hard because these animals come into your lives and they're family members and
Mhm.
they stick around and at the end, I think as a most responsible pet owners, just like parents, it's like you want the best for your animals. You want to be there for them. And so what an honor that you were on the other side of it, the person that was reassuring and giving hope to these families, like
Mhm.
you said, and helping these animals through their final transition on earth. That's
Yeah.
like the hardest part, hardest reality of loving
It
something,
is, and
anything.
that's the hardest part actually of the farm too, is
Mhm.
bringing in these animals, loving on them, caring for them, and then having some of them have a short lifespan due
Yeah.
to being sick or having their own health problems, or again, the age. You think that they're younger than they are, but they're actually older than they are, and that is one of the hardest parts also of the farm life is that you're constantly bringing in and unfortunately we lost quite a few this year already
Mhm.
due to age or sickness and health issues. So it's been a very difficult time the last couple of months for
Yeah.
us.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, I can just imagine. Um, so I definitely want to get into that because I'd love to hear about how you and your husband just navigate that because it's not all, I mean, a lot of it's fun and funny and like hopeful and great, but I mean, I'm sure there's a fair amount where you have to really steel yourself in order to keep going and to like make
Hmm.
sure that you're there for the animals that need you, even when things are really hard. But I'd love to hear a little bit about the founding of the farm and how this started to materialize for you. It sounds like you were really busy with work, and you're definitely the person people would bring their rescue cases to.
Right.
Did they just? I mean, was this just born out of like, hey, here's a cat, like, can you rescue it? And then it's like, okay, now what do I do with it?
Well, my husband and I weren't even looking for a house and the farm just was an opportunity that just fell into
Mhm.
our lap. So when we came and we drove down the driveway, my husband was like, "Oh my gosh, I just bought a house." He didn't, neither of us were looking for it. And we went through the process of, getting the house and getting the farm and the acreage and the land. And a lot of the housing was already built.
Mhm.
So we didn't have to do a lot except for another duck area, fence off a couple of areas. And my husband's words were, just because we have the room and the housing doesn't mean you need to fill it all.
I was
Well,
gonna say, did you start with the animal? Like, did the house come first and then the animals, or was it the other way around?
I've always had rescue cats through work
Mm-hmm.
that basically every single cat I have has been rescued through work. I have adopted a few from the Humane Society, same with my dogs, but it just started that we had the space, so I wanted sheep, so we got some sheep. And then my friend was getting rid of a goat, so we took her goat in. And then from there, we got the livestock guardian dog to take care of the sheep and the goats. Um, and then my friend out of the blue called me, and she's an army doctor.
Mm-hmm.
And she's like, "Hey, you have the land. We have a retired military mule that needs a new home, and his name is Big Enough. And we needed to find a housing for him because we can't keep him on our tab." So I asked my husband, "Hey, can we bring on a mule?" And within a couple of weeks, we actually had the mule brought down to us from the Sacramento area. And from there, it just kind of rescued the mule, then rescued the donkeys, and then rescued another goat, and it just continued on and on, rescuing the different ones. And then the newest ones, a friend's friend called and said, "Hey, our son's moving back in. We can't keep our tortoises. You're always taking in these animals. Can you take in these tortoises?" And I was like, "Sure." So now we have 4 different tortoises.
They're really cute, by the way. I've never thought of myself as a reptile person, but again, I've never met an animal I didn't like. And when we were there, my son, who was just turned 2 at the time, was like fascinated because they were the little ones, right?
Yeah, they're little. They're like huge now. They've doubled in size probably since you saw them. But we also have Tiny Tim, the little leopard tortoise that's about this big. And he's still small, but I believe that's the one that your son really liked, was little Tiny Tim.
Yeah, oh my gosh, he dropped him too.
He bounced. He was fine. Your son is low to the ground.
I was so mortified at the time because you just heard this thunk, because they're solid animals. Like, even for being so tiny, he was like just a little like compact piece of muscle and like shell. And so I heard this thunk, and I'm like thinking at first, oh my gosh, did my son just fall and hit his head? And it's like this little tortoise, it's like bouncing.
Well, it was on carpet, and he's okay.
Thank
There's
God.
no trauma.
Thank God. But it's just so cool. I had no idea. I mean, I didn't even think about it at the time that the military does use a lot of animals. Just as a brief aside, can you tell us a little bit more about Biggie? Because I thought that was like such a cool, like what his career was.
Biggie was an artillery mule that basically carried artillery, bedding, food, and everything up the mountains. So he was a mountain warfare animal. He taught the soldiers about mountain warfare, on how to, traverse the mountains to get their supplies up there. Was able to teach the soldiers a lot about, moving artillery safely from one place to another place. And he did a wonderful job. He was very well liked by the military men, and he just had a great career with them. Unfortunately, he became injured and got a bone chip in his knee to where they had to retire him. And that's where my friend said, "Hey, I know somebody. I know a sucker. Let me go ahead and call her and see what we can do." And that's how we ended up with Biggie.
I love it. You basically have like a 5-star general mule war hero on you.
Yes, he is. He served his military, and he served it well.
Yes. It's incredible because you don't think about all of the different roles that animals play in a lot of these different industries. And it's also very cool for me just to, as an animal lover, like know that even in the military, we really require the service of animals like Biggie, because you can't take a tank up the side of a mountain.
Nope, and the donkeys they have military donkeys too, just for that aspect, because they're more sure-footed also. Horses are a lot more excitable. So they're used in the military, of course. Everybody's seen the war movies with the horses in it, but you never see the donkeys or the mules, and they were actually a huge part of all the wars that have gone on.
And they're so cute. They're also, the animals on your farm are so friendly and docile. They all intermingle. Like, it's not like they live in different sections. So like the donkeys are walking around with the horses, and then you'll be standing talking, and all of a sudden like a wolf will come up next to you. your shepherd mix, which is
my shepherd lab mix.
Yes, which is definitely a wolf.
Well, that's how we adopted her, so we'll just stick with that story.
I wanted to backtrack a little bit because I loved when you were sending me some information about your bio and we were conceptualizing this episode, you did send me a little tidbit about how you and your husband met. And he's a big part of the farm. I'd love if you would just share that funny anecdote.
My husband and I met basically like a Disney story, Lady and the Tramp.
That story. I love how you went right into it. Not Cinderella.
I think it's Lady and the Tramp. Basically, I had opened the door to put the leash on my dog, and we lived in the same condo complex, but we had never met each other before. And my dog snuck out the door and went down this to the street, and I heard this gentleman go, hey, whoever's dog this is about to be beat up by my dog, so you need to come get your dog. So I ran down there, and the dogs got into this humongous fight, and my dog is just hanging from his dog's neck. So we finally get them separated. I said, I'm a veterinary technician. You need to go ahead and take your dog in, give me the bill because this is my fault. I accidentally let my dog out. So he took his dog to the emergency room, got in a bunch of drains and everything, and he gave me a bill, and that's how we met.
Was he like, here's the bill. Do you want to go out on a date?
Well, unfortunately, his dog passed away about a week or two later. We ended up talking and everything for a while, and then we ended up starting to date, and that's when it took off. So basically, we started dating in January, got engaged in March, and married in September. But we had known each other and known each other's love for food. He knew my love for animals and my career, and I knew, I was learning about him. So it just all kind of just happened.
Yeah, I love that. There's very much a theme of rolling with the punches, which I feel like is probably very necessary, especially with what you have to do in your day to day with all of the animals. It's so funny. I feel like you and your husband have a really great camaraderie and have such a great sense of humor.
Thank you.
Because even in your story of like, okay, we're moving on to this house just because there's land doesn't mean we have to fill it. But I'm pretty sure you have hundreds of animals on your property now.
I believe our number is about 74, but a lot of them are chickens that I have purchased, or, I'll be missing a chicken for about 21 days, and then she'll come back over with 13 babies. So, and that's happened quite a few times. So a lot of them are chickens, but we do definitely have a lot of different species on the farm.
Yeah. Can you list some of the animals that you guys have?
Sure. We have Biggie the mule. We have 2 donkeys. We have 2 horses, 2 goats, 3 sheep, a cockatoo, chickens, ducks, guinea fowl, tortoises, 4 dogs, 8 cats, a bunny rabbit, and my husband. They're all running around the farm.
Yes. And for some of our listeners, I mean, when we produce this episode, you might catch a glimpse of Brad in the beginning as well. Brad does something really cool for animals too. I remember you guys were telling us a little bit about he does some research and works in a lab.
Yes, he does work in a lab. They do, use the mice and the rats and the monkeys, to make sure that the drugs are pure and able to be safely used in humans. But he makes the drugs himself. He does all the compounding, and he's the chemist, the main chemist that they use. So he does it to make it safe to put into the animals.
It's really cool because it's was he already working with animals and like in his career when you guys met and got started, and then you just realized it was completely compatible, like between him working with animals and your love for rescuing?
No, not really. He had a dog. His family always had dogs too, and basically Brad says I've dragged him into this type of lifestyle that he didn't want at all. He's an animal lover.
Yeah.
And his heart has just grown bigger and bigger and bigger as the funny farm gets bigger and bigger and bigger. He truly cares for these animals, and I don't think he knew that he actually had this in him and the ability to take care, because this was definitely not his dream. It's always been, my dream since around the age of 30 to have a big piece of property that I could do rescues and get, the horses on the property and to, let them live their best life.
Yeah, yeah. No, I love that. I think both of you have a good sense of rolling with the punches, and I'm sure
Yes.
even when he's like rolling his eyes or whatever, I mean, I've seen him with the mule on his shoulder and then a dog
Right.
at his leg, and you're like, come on, you love this too.
Yeah.
So what's like a day in the life on the farm like for you?
Wake up in the morning, do chores. Brad does the outside
Mhm.
chores, which is opening up the gates, letting them out, and feeding the animals. I do the inside chores, feeding the tortoises, the bird, the dogs, the cats.
Mhm.
And then during the day, he goes off to work. I'll be going back to work here soon. So then, we just switch taking care of the animals during the day, and on the weekend we're able to do more. And then at nighttime we both do evening chores, which is giving supplements, the extra
Mhm.
food, the feed, locking everybody up, making sure that we see all of them to
Mhm.
make sure that there's nothing wrong or injured or walking, strangely or anything like that.
That they're safe. Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah. Do you guys ever, where you live, do you ever have to worry about predators, like animal predators coming in and messing with you?
Absolutely. Absolutely, yes. We have coyotes that jump the fence. That's why we have two livestock guardian dogs.
Mhm. Mhm.
And then we also have to watch out for the hawks, for the chickens,
Mhm.
and my little dog, Wyatt Weeby, who's only about 13 pounds. So we do have to watch him because the hawks are very large. Um, so it's mostly the coyotes. We get a few
Yeah.
snakes, but they're the helpful kind. They're the
Yeah.
California king and the gopher snakes. We don't have any rattlesnakes because we have so many gopher snakes on the property, which is really nice not to worry about that.
Oh, I didn't
Um,
realize that gopher snakes keep the rattlers away.
yep, they eat them.
Oh, they do?
Yep. So
Oh my
snake on
gosh.
snake.
Oh my
Yes.
gosh. Yeah, when you were saying that the hawks could pick up the chickens too, I didn't know that the birds of prey would go for other
Oh
birds.
yes, they go for the chickens all the time.
Oh, oh my gosh. The chickens are so cute too because like in at dusk, I mean the animals are so smart and so programmed to like know what they need. So it was really cool
Hmm.
because you guys have a coop and I noticed around dusk all of the chickens started herding themselves into the little coop without having to be told. And I was like, that's so great. I wish they could teach my son that. Oh, what's one of the biggest challenges? I mean, we just talked about, protecting them from predators and making sure that you guys have to like put your eyes on them and everything. But what's one of the biggest challenges of working on the farm?
Some of the biggest challenges is obviously financial because it takes
Mm-hmm.
a lot of money to feed the different species. Each
Mm-hmm.
one needs different food, different supplements, different, day to day. They
Yeah.
have different day to day needs. Other stuff is, keeping them safe on the
Mm-hmm.
property, making sure the fence is okay, making sure that the dogs can't get out and keep everything else in.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so there is there is a lot of due stress living on
Mm-hmm.
the farm.
Mm-hmm.
Just the breakdown of it and just the day-to-day process can be pretty stressful because there's a lot of work that needs to be done.
Yeah. I mean, I can barely keep up having a toddler most days. And so to think about having to take care of 73 babies is it's just what you guys do is really incredible. Um,
Luckily,
what
I have some farm help that comes on a couple of
oh,
days a week to help out too, and that's really helpful when both of us are working. And then
yeah.
they also check on the animals then during the day, and then they call us if they notice anything's off or different or wrong, or hey,
Yeah.
this food is out, you need more food of this.
Yeah.
So it's really nice to have a backup system.
Yeah, it seems like you guys are embedded within a really nice little community, or at least like the pocket you guys have created for
Hmm.
yourselves. Because even some of your neighbors had horses that were just like hanging out for the day, like
Yeah,
when we were there.
we I have a neighbor that just brings her two horses over and they join the herd, and we
Yeah,
have 4 acres and we don't like keeping them locked up in their
yeah,
housing units. So we open up the gate at the arena gate during the morning time, and they're able to walk the 4 acres and just eat and just not be standing still all day long, and they can just roam and enjoy it. And so she brings her horses over, and we call it horse sitting, but they're able to run around and, join the crew, and it's enrichment. It's just something different for them, from them, to have new friends come over, and then for the friends that come over, it's new for them to have the run around of the property, because they have an arena that they're in, but it's about a half acre to a little bit more than that. So for them to come and they can run around with our horses and run around with our donkeys, and they're like, a chicken. What's a chicken? What is this furry creature that you have there? This is called a sheep.
What's a guinea? I didn't know what a guinea fowl was before I went, before we visited, which also reminds me, another funny anecdote was you had, because you have so many birds, I remember you saying, well, sometimes like they'll lay eggs and you think, well, this egg looks funny. And then it turns out it's not even, like, you have one animal.
Right. There was a nest going on inside the coop, and I was like, okay, I don't want you to have a bunch of chicks. We can't do this. Yeah. So I said, okay, I'm going to take away about 5 to 6 eggs. Mm-hmm. So I ended up looking, and I was like, well, this one doesn't look like a normal chicken egg, but it's small, so I'll just leave it anyway. So I took the big duck eggs out, and I took out some of the chicken eggs, and then lo and behold, 21 days later, my chicken had a duck.
And he's so cute too. He's like this cute little brown speckled duck that just follows all the other chicks around.
Yep, that would be Tater. Yeah,
so cute. We talked a little bit about some of the challenges of being on the farm. I want to go back to how you personally navigate when you have a big loss, or like, I know earlier this year you guys lost some of your beloved pets, and that's never easy. But when you have a whole farm to run and all of these animals that depend on you, how do you find the strength to keep going or to navigate those challenging times?
You deal with the grief as any normal person would for losing one of their pets, one of their companions. You move through the different systems of grief. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, you have to keep going because the other ones depend on you. So you take a moment, you cry, you have your, I have my downtime. My husband does chores that day because it's usually too sad for me to continue for the rest of the day. And then you just have to move forward in the future because the other ones depend on you. They need to be fed. They need to be shoed. They need to be, looked after, and you just continue on.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm sure it also is helpful to lean into some of those funnier moments too with the animals. Do you feel like you get that comedic relief with some of the animals?
Every day somebody is doing something that you just think wouldn't happen.
Can you share some of your favorites?
So my horse has now learned that if she comes up to the back door, she can turn the doorknob and jingle it, and she lets us know that it's time for dinner.
Oh, I love that.
And you'll walk through, you'll hear a noise, you'll walk through the kitchen, and then just look, and there's this big horse head just standing at the window going, hello, it is dinner time. My one little mini donkey, he loves Fruit Loops and cereal that he gets every day as a little handful treat. So he'll just sit there at the back door and just scream his head off until you come and give him some sugary snacks. The chickens, people just see them as chickens, but they're actually really funny. They'll do silly things and lay eggs in silly areas, and then they'll just walk up to you and just, I'm a chicken.
I love that they all have their own very specific personalities, and like each animal seems so different from the next.
They do. No animal is the same here. Everybody is different. Everybody has their special personality. Fabio, he's kind of the bully. He's the little mini donkey, so of course he's going to be the bully. Wendy is just the sweetest donkey you could ever meet. she was so skittish and so scared when we first got her, and she was just underweight and just malnourished, and we've been able to get her healthy as you saw her. And now she puts her head on your arms for hugs. She comes over for kisses and scratches, and you call them and they come to you.
Yeah.
And they know that in their way that they were saved and that you are a huge part of that.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm sure some of your animals have been through things that were quite traumatic. I mean, it is an animal rescue at the end of the day. So when we talk about a lot of these animals, some of them are, missing eyes or like missing limbs. And,
Right.
these are animals that without you and your husband and the work that you guys do, they probably wouldn't survive and or have quality of life. What is it like trying to rehab some of these animals that have been through traumatic things? Like, I'm sure it takes so much patience, but I'd love to hear in your words, what your technique is for, making an animal feel safe and loved.
The technique is just to be a good human being. Give them space, give them food, give them love. I am so fortunate to have a job that allows me to be able to give them their best quality of life, to give them the best chances where not normal people, but, it's too expensive for some clients to, have to deal with this disease. And I'm lucky enough to work with some fabulous doctors that are just brilliant and that can help me and lead me and guide me on how to take care of them in the proper way, which medications to use. So I am very, very fortunate to be in the field that I am, and I'm very, very fortunate to have met the people that I've met through my life choices and just to help me love on the animals and give them the greatest care that I possibly can. And that's been very fortunate for us.
Yeah, it's such a gift for all of the animals that you guys take care of. I mean, there were some animals that you were telling us, like there was a cat that you guys had rescued that had been like nailed to a board or something, and like there are just some terrible things that happen. And
yeah, he was glued to a piece of wood, so we named him Elmer after Elmer's glue.
I also do. We have to also acknowledge here that you guys have the best animal names for all of the animals. I want to take a few minutes to talk a little bit more about your personal journey, especially recently. You mentioned you've been dealing with something called breast implant illness. If you're comfortable, I'd love for you to share a little bit with our listeners as to what it is and how you were diagnosed and how you're currently dealing with that.
Okay. I'm very open about it because it is discussed none. I mean, there's basically no communication about breast implant illness. They don't tell you about breast implant illness when you get the breast implants. I got mine about 20 years ago, and I guess you're supposed to exchange them every 10 years, and I did not do that. And just one day I ended up on the floor at work in extreme amount of stomach pain. Well, you don't think your breasts are going to affect your stomach in any way. So I had a bunch of tests run on my GI system. I had a bunch of different tests, autoimmune tests being run on me, a neurologist, a cardiologist, and finally just one of the PAs actually looked at me at the gastroenterologist's office, and she goes, "My friend has the exact same symptoms as you." She had breast implant illness. She took out her breast implants, and within 3 days, 3/4 of her symptoms were gone. She said, maybe that's what it is with you. It's not talked about. It's not covered by insurance. You're going to have to, remove your implants on your own bill. And my husband and I discussed it, and we're like, this is our last ditch hope. We have no answers on why I've been out of work for almost a year now, why the pain is there, the discomfort, the illness, the sickness. And I went under and I had them removed in September, and I would say within 3 months, over 3/4 of my symptoms have disappeared. I have a
Wow.
little bit of brain fog that's going on, but my GI system is under control. I don't have the achy bones. I don't have the muscles that I can barely walk on anymore. I went down to 94 pounds, so I put on about 15 pounds since then. So actually having the breast implants removed saved my life.
Wow. It's actually incredible. And I almost get the chills because my mom, and 20, 30 years ago, I think the aesthetics industry, like, let's be real, like life has always been very different in terms of like women's expectations and like body image and everything for years and years and years. And my mom, very similarly, has had implants for over 30 years, and she recently also got them completely removed. And working in healthcare, I'm starting to see a trend, especially now, of women who are taking out their implants and realizing, wow, like I feel so much better. Like whether it's because they were having symptoms or they just decided that they were done having implants and they've gotten them removed and just anecdotally have been like, wow, all of these things that I'd been experiencing here and there are completely gone now. And you're right. I think they don't talk about a lot of these things. I think women's health in general is a little bit behind everything else. But implants, just like anything else, it's a foreign body in your body. So, how did you feel like you had resources in your medical community that were supportive of you, or did you and your husband kind of have to navigate this by yourself?
We had to navigate by ourselves. The first surgeon that we went to actually told me point blank to my face that there's no such thing as breast implant illness. And if another doctor says that there is, then they're quacks. Basically, we got up and walked out of that appointment because there are websites, there are stories, there are proven cases that these women that are sick have the implants removed and they are better. And so my husband and I went around, talked to a couple of different surgeons, found the one that I felt the most comfortable with, and was able to get them out within a month of that first initial appointment. And I'm a completely different person, even from before I was sick. Like I would get massive migraines and headaches every single day. Well, I was on medication for that for a decade.
Yeah.
And now I'm off of two of the medications. I still have one medication for the migraines when they actually do happen, but I'm not getting them on a consistent schedule anymore. I don't have to take anti-inflammatories anymore because my muscles are better and my joints, they don't ache. So my husband and I had to go through and learn a lot of this on our own. And luckily I have him supporting me, which means the world to me to have such a supportive husband during all of this. And my friends were great and work was fabulous, with, making sure that I was able to take care of myself. It's been so nice to have such a strong backup system and support. But breast implant illness is true. There's not an ICD-9 code for it. There's no medical diagnoses for it. It's just called an illness, like the flu basically is an illness. So luckily I was able to find a surgeon that I was very fond of, and here I am now.
I'm so glad you listened to your gut and that you guys you listened to your body, you listened to your gut, and you did it. And thank goodness there was a PA that was able to say, I've seen this and this is probably what's happening, as opposed to what happens sometimes in the medical community, which can be really frustrating. I think it's just different personalities perhaps, but for somebody to tell you, no, that's not what you're experiencing is not helpful. Like no one knows what you're feeling in your body, and just because you don't have a name for it doesn't mean that it doesn't exist. So thank goodness. I'm very much a fan of everything that you guys are doing, and there's so much more to come, I feel, for the Funny Farm. Can you share with our listeners a little bit more about how you and Brad are going to keep this growing and what the next steps are for you guys?
The next step is actually I'm writing a child's book, and it's about the Funny Farm tales and about the different animals that we've rescued and how they've had to take on a new role in their lives. The first one is actually about Biggie, the military mule, so it's about him coming into retirement and him trying to find out where he belongs. Like, is he a duck? Is he a fish? Is he a, is he a donkey, which he's not? Or is he a horse? So there's different ways and challenges that Biggie has to go through to find out that, hey, he's actually just a retired military mule and he can enjoy his life. We're going to be doing a couple of books in the series, like how Tater is not a chicken, she's a duck. Then we're going to do Fabio because he's kind of a bully, so he was not friends with the other donkey for the longest time because he was a bully. So we're going to have, how Fabio learns not to bully.
Yeah.
And hopefully a lot of the funds from the book will help take care of the expenses, and then maybe we can bring more rescues in and try to help them that way. I do want to become a 501c3 and do educational training for kids, like 4-H kids, high school kids, anybody who wants to learn about how to raise the farm life, how to, take care of farm animals, because it's a industry that's losing all of its veterinarians. There's, I believe 5 exotic doctors or livestock doctors in the San Diego County, and San Diego is huge with livestock. You couldn't even imagine how much livestock is actually around us that we don't know about. So I want to bring on the education and the knowledge to others, hey, this is what you look for when a horse is foundering or a horse is colicking. This is what you look for in a sheep that has an abscess in its eye, or the goat that has an abscess in his mouth. This is why you trim their hooves. This is why you shear them once a year. So I do want to start doing a little bit of that just to try to help.
Yeah, I think it would be just an inimitable resource because, like you said, I mean, and like Biggie's lesson, like we need animals and animals need us. And I think it's such important work that you're doing and so admirable. And the sanctuary that you've created for all of these animals who've needed rescue is really quite magical. It's very, very cool. I could literally talk your ear off and like just absorb all of the wisdom and knowledge and experiences. It's so fun to hear everything about what you have gone through with your animals and how you've done it and how you've managed to build something so great. And that all of this is really, like you said, you've just kind of rolled with the punches and this is what your life has become from an early age of being an animal lover. And it's really cool to see it all come to life. And it's so exciting to hear about where things are going next.
Thank you.
If you're ready, I want to do a really quick fast 5, which is just like some fun questions to shake off the interview. And then we'll close with a question we ask all of our guests. Okay. So if you're ready.
Yes.
Okay. So number 1, this might be hard, but favorite animal on the farm?
Honestly, the favorite one for me would be the donkey.
Oh,
Miss Wendy. She is so sweet. She is the epitome of thank you for taking me in, for loving on me, for rescuing me. Here's my head. Give me kisses. She's just so endearing and just loving, and it just goes to prove that they can come from these horrible situations of being just tormented and tortured and malnourished to a proper place. And within, 2 years, she was able to give us come over for pet. She was able to trust us.
Yeah.
to do her feet with the farrier and everything. So, and
Yeah.
she has the most beautiful, soulful eyes too.
Yeah, she really does. I also feel like animals have such a good sense of I mean, we're animals, but I feel like they must really know how open-hearted and loving you and your husband are because it just radiates off of you. So I could just imagine even like the most scarred of animals over time, they just know that you have the best of intentions for them because that's the energy and love that you give off. Okay, number 2. What is the most unexpected part of living with so many animals?
Probably the things that they do. Just the funny anecdotal stories, just their daily routine that they come up with. It's unexpected. So a lot of times we don't know what to expect. And we go outside and it's like, oh, okay, well, you're not supposed to be in that fenced area. How did you get in there? And then you have to find a way to lift these ginormous animals out of the garden area where you don't know how they got in. So that's the most difficult part of actually living on the farm is you don't know what you're going to get next.
Yeah, yeah. Jumping on the tails of that, is there a least favorite part of living with so many animals or like a chore that you guys just hate but have to do?
Picking up the poo.
Okay. That's probably the hardest part of having a child, too.
There is just so much around this place. It's unbelievable.
Yeah. Actually, I hate to call my husband out, but we were cleaning up earlier and I go downstairs. I just hear him go, "Hey, oh my gosh." And I run down to like make sure everything's okay. And he just has like a streak of poop on his shirt. And I'm like, how did that get there? Like,
we get it on our shoes. We get it on our pants. All of a sudden, I'll look at my shirt and it's like, how do I have chicken poo on my shirt? I didn't even pick up a chicken.
It just happens.
It is.
Okay, number 4. What's the best part of your day?
The best part of my day is when I can look out outside of the window of my house and actually see the herd, listen to the chickens, listen to the roosters, just going around the house, seeing the cats, just embracing my daily life is the best thing, and it's the most fabulous thing for me. And it's just, my heart swells when I can just look out and see all of the donkeys and the horses and mule and the sheep all hanging out together, eating in the same grassy area. And it just makes me feel like I'm at the place I'm supposed to be. This is home. This is my meaning. This is my definition of my life.
Oh, I really love that. Number 5, favorite animal factoid. I had a feeling you might have some like weird animal factoids, and I wanted to...
Oh, there's so many. Most of them are naughty, so I can't say it. Can you give me an example of what you would want to hear?
You can tell us the naughty one.
Okay. Well, did you know that a duck's penis can actually fall off?
What? No.
Yeah, during mating, if they get stuck, the duck's penis will actually break off, and then they will grow a new one.
Oh, wow, like a lizard tail.
Yes.
See? Something I didn't know.
See, but I told you it was going to be naughty.
No, it's amazing. Okay, this is the final question of the interview. We ask this of all of our guests because as you know, we're big fans of, you know, how formative experiences in our childhood years really impact who we end up becoming. So what was one quality you had as a teen or young woman that you didn't take pride in then, but you look at now and you're really proud of?
One of the things that I'm really proud of is following my instinct, following my heart, taking that moment of needing to be compassionate, needing to be a caretaker. That I was told from a young age that I should be, and just making that into my life, whether or not it's at work or on the farm or my husband. Just I'm very, very proud of how I've taken my life and made it into something very special.
Yeah, it really is very, very special. And I think anyone that meets you, anyone that is lucky enough to experience what you've created, could really feel the full weight of that. And I'm so grateful that you've been willing to spend some time with us and just walk our listeners through, this really rich life that you have built, for yourself, for your animals, with the good and the bad. And it's just really cool to see somebody so passionate about what they love doing, doing it. It's amazing.
Thank you.
You're a very special lady, Tara, and I'm so grateful that we got to spend this time with you.
Thank you so much for having me on. I really, really appreciate it.
Yeah, this was so great. All right, listeners, we will be putting Pita's Funny Farm in our show notes, and we will keep you all posted on the 501c3 as it grows, and Tara's children's books. And I can't wait for everyone to hear this. It's amazing. And that's our show. If you liked what you heard today, please like, subscribe to, follow, and share Meet Bridget with your circle. The best way to help our work here is to rate and review our podcast. We're listening and constantly working to build something helpful for you. Catch you next time.